see if this works. Hopefully y'all can hear me. Just stand by a second. I am signing into chat. I'm signing into chat, so just y'all stand by. Yep, I'm here, Max. Just stand by. I'm trying to fix the everything else. I think I got audio. Can you hear me, Max? Good. Y'all just stand by a second. I'm opening up a couple tabs here that I needed for the video tonight, since I had to reboot the computer, and I'll be with you here in a second. So y'all just stand by 1 second, and I will be right there. So sorry about the technical glitches. Don't know what was going on there tonight. And I'm trying to get to a video that I want to show y'all, which is relative. Let's see here. Oh, I'm trying to find it. Oh, there we go. And I think I need like 15.
Today's tip for an incredible Walt Disney World Resort visit. Tap into incredible powers with the My
I'll
Disney
be with you in
Experience.
just a second. Okay, now let me share this link really quick. I got to share the new link on Facebook, so y'all just stand by. And I'll be with you in just a second. Sorry about all the technical difficulties tonight. But,
Resort visit.
I'll be
Tap
right
into incredible
there.
powers with the My
I
Disney
see
Experience.
that Fernando's on. Y'all just bear with me. I had a bunch of technical difficulties that I wasn't expecting tonight. And we'll get it straightened out. So I want to talk tonight real quick. Let me share this link. Okay, now let me share this link really quick about LGT
share
Sabers.
the new link on
I know
Facebook,
a lot
so
of
y'all
people
just
have bought
stand by.
LGT Sabers,
And I'll be with you in
and
just
also
a second.
Patch Store Sabers and the Proffie.
Sorry about all the technical
And
difficulties tonight.
you know,
Resort
basically
visit.
LGT
Tap
and
into
the Patch
incredible
Store
powers
made
with the
these
My
sabers
Disney
accessible.
Fernando's on.
Y'all just
stand
stand by.
by.
I had a ugly mug here in a
Technical
second.
difficulties that I wasn't expecting tonight, but
Let me
we'll
share
get it
this
straightened
link.
out.
So I want to talk
Paste.
tonight. Bam. All right, sweet.
Real quick.
So now let's get back to you
Share this
guys.
link. Okay, now let
Bam.
me share this link really quick.
All right.
About
I
LGT.
gotta share
Sabers.
everybody.
Link on
You know,
Facebook.
the funny thing was,
Alright.
you know, I started out with these
LGT
glasses
Sabers. I'll
on,
be with you in
and
just a
these are like
second.
my hockey
Sabers
glasses. I
and
wear them when I'm
Proffie.
playing
About all the
hockey,
technical
and
difficulties
it's kind of a joke if anybody's
Basically, LGT
seen some old-time hockey movies.
Sabers.
Yeah, sorry about the echo.
Technical difficulties that
There's nothing I can do about it.
Dang,
Share
this
this
link.
link. What's doubling up
So I want
on
to talk
audio?
tonight. Bam.
All right,
Sweet.
everything
Real
else is
quick.
muted.
So now let's get back to you guys.
Bam.
Share this link really quick.
All right.
About
You
LGT.
see everybody?
Link.
You know, the funny thing was, you know, I started out now, there's still an echo, and these are like my hockey glasses. I wear them when I'm playing hockey, and it's kind of a joke if anybody's seen some old-time hockey movies. Yeah, sorry about the echo. Oh, I know what's happening. There's nothing I can do about it. Let me get rid of that. How about now? Should not be looping now. Is it clear now? Generu said, Lord. Yeah, I'm having all kinds of technical difficulties tonight. Hopefully that echo is stopped now. I had another video going because right now I'm having to use my mic. So I apologize for all the audio difficulties. My computer updated and IV cam. Yeah, sorry about that, guys. My computer updated, my IV cam mic is messed up, and I think this is going through my computer mic, and I had another video playing in the background, so blah, technical difficulties. So what I was saying was I've been wearing my hockey glasses tonight when I first logged on. You know, I wear these, y'all play old or seen any old-timey hockey movies, you know, I'm trying to listen to the freaking song. But I had those glasses last couple weeks. If y'all see me, I know I missed the last 2 weeks, but my primary glasses broke, and it was taking me forever to get new glasses, and I was having to wear these. And you know, I'm old, and I have bifocals, and the bifocals weren't in those glasses, so it's been really hard for me to solder. I've been having to use a lot of magnifying glasses. But what I wanted to get back to was talking about these LGT sabers and Pach store sabers. And you know, it's obvious on the open source forums and Proffie board support group that that's okay, Michael Dallin. I haven't been on in a while, so you caught my first live in a couple weeks. And hey, Colin, I know we got a lot of folks on here. Max, Wooly, Fernando's on, Kin to the Hill. You know, thanks everybody for tuning in. Jen's in class. But, you know, I wanted to talk about these sabers. Obviously, they're affordable. They're cheap. You know, I think you can get, you know, the full saber and a blade for like $300 or $400, maybe less. You know, and they come from China. There's a couple of U.S. distributors, and I don't want to talk bad about the Pach store or LGT sabers. I mean, the saber that I built, Ella, the Princess Leia, was an LGT hilt, and you know, I think that LGT hilt was pretty awesome. But because they're so affordable, a lot of people are getting them, and I think they have unrealistic expectations, or they want to shortcut the you know, the learning curve on the Proffie OS. And then that kind of got me thinking, because, you know, in saber installers, we've done it to ourselves. Oh, yeah. I'm sorry that you messed up your saber, Colin. But saber installers, we've kind of done this to ourselves because there's not enough of us to build as many sabers as there is demand for lightsabers. And you know, then you have the Chinese companies that have zoomed in to take over those markets. But I want to show you all something. So I'm going to share my screen real quick.
Hey, greetings everybody.
Face in it. And I want to go show you this video. Oop, that's ugly. I want to show you this video real quick. So this was a video that I did for Eric Sarmiento, and this is a Pach store lightsaber versus an install that I did for him, and I want y'all to see it. Battle brick, and you know, it had.
Did you know you can go to libertymutual.com to customize your car insurance so you only pay for what you need?
Really?
To do with your rainbow blade, but it has other issues. I'm going to show you something. I'm going to ignite. These are both in the same color. I'm going to ignite your Graflex that I built for you. And then I'm going to ignite the Pach store. Both in the same color. These blades both have the same construction. And now I'm going to give you... So I'm hoping
Megtooth Sabers
y'all saw that.
requires a lot of...
What is it doing? It's going crazy. Yeah. So the Pach store saber, you know, I fixed it. That belonged to one of our subscribers, and I fixed it. Basically, when the Pach store did that install, they didn't. Oh yeah, the Pach store didn't. They didn't merge two wires on two FETs to run the NeoPixel blade. They were just running the NeoPixel blade off one FET. So the NeoPixel blade, which that was a blade that I built. There was nothing wrong with that blade. What was wrong was the wiring in the saber and how they wired the board. That's the first problem with these Chinese installs. Secondly, I don't know what kind of blade you're getting from those companies, but you can guarantee that it's going to be thrown together and cheap. I don't know what gauge wires they're using, and I don't know if they're using a resistor on the NeoPixel target, and I don't know what type of diffusion they're using. But the bottom line in all this is, if you order a saber that costs $300 for the lightsaber and blade, and then it doesn't meet your expectations, then you might want to measure your expectations a little bit. I realize that these custom lightsabers are expensive. You know, I put the video up of this saber, which, by the way, this saber is tentatively sold. This is a Proffie install that I did. And, you know, I understand that those Pach store lightsabers are cheap, but number one, you have zero say in what goes on the config file. You have zero say in what fonts are on it. And then, of course, people get those sabers and they expect to get them and they can just put new fonts on them, and that's a no. There's ways where you can work around the OS right now until OS 6 drops. There's ways you can work around and add in. Yeah, I mean, I don't have any problems, Adrian, with Pach Store or LGT hilts. My issue is with the installed hilts, and it's a less personal service than you would get if you commissioned a lightsaber to be built by someone. We've done it to ourselves. There's not enough installers out there, and there's so much demand for lightsabers that, we're having these issues. But what I wanted to say, because everyone's running out and buying these LGT and Pach Store sabers, and, they want to personalize them when they get them. And right now, with where the OS is, it's a little bit more complicated to update them than just throwing fonts on the SD card. You can do that as long as you don't change the folder names on the SD card, but you're stuck with whatever blade style, LGT or the Pach Store installed for you. And, that can be difficult. So then, if I'm sure everybody's been watching all of Fernando's updates and stuff that he's working for OS 6. And I think OS 6 is going to fix a lot of these issues with the Pach Store and LGT sabers if they program Fernando's button file on there so you get all of Fernando's adjustability. Did the Pach Store LGT, did they program save state on there so if you don't like a color you can change the color? These are all questions that you need to ask before you buy these sabers. I do think that the Pach Store and LGT are good companies, and I think they have a lot to add. But for installed lightsabers, you're going to get just a basic config, and it's not going to be custom. And if you want to customize it, then you're going to have to be patient, and you're going to have to learn the OS, and you're going to have to learn how to install Proffies. And there's a lot of help out there to do it. But if you run out and buy an LGT, and the first thing you do is log on to open source or Proffie board support and start firing a gazillion questions a second, and it's obvious you haven't read the manual, a lot of the folks on those forums kind of get impatient with you. Yeah, Colin. Yep. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of choices out there, but what I'm saying is cheaper may not be better. And here's an example. If I build a saber for somebody and they're like, I want this font, I want this blade style, number 1, and I want this number 2, I can make that happen for them personally, but you're probably not going to get that kind of responsiveness from the Pach Store or, LGT. That's right. So that's what I was talking about, Fernando. When OS 6 does drop, and it's not even in beta testing for the public yet, but when OS 6 does drop, if you're using Fernando's prop file, then you'll have all of Fernando's adjustments that he's built in, where you can adjust blade length, you can adjust volume, you can adjust the blade styles, you can adjust color. You can adjust all sorts of things that Fernando's built into the, basically as it was. I mean, Fernando's built a user interface into the lightsaber OS. And I think once LGT and Pach Store start installing sabers with Fernando's prop file or any other prop file that uses Fernando's adjustability, then I think they'll be worth it and they'll be a lot more user friendly. That's what Fernando and Matt McGreary and Dimitri Stock and Frederick are all trying to make this saber more user friendly. I think we went to color change and then we got save state, and I think those were like pushing the saber light years ahead of where it was. And then with battle mode, you got a more simplistic way of doing the battle modes. And then you have Fernando's style library, and I think all of that made this much easier. But I think what's getting ready to come in OS 6, you're going to be okay. But yeah, Colin, that gets to what I was talking about. Yes, my sabers are more expensive that I install. They're more expensive than an LGT or a Pach store saber. But what you're getting from me is whatever you want personally on the saber is going to be on the saber, and you're not going to have to send it to someone to fix, and you're not going to have to sit and learn the OS to get it adjusted. You know, I try to put what you want on your saber, and you know, does that cost more? Yes, it does. But you got to weigh you got to do a cost benefit analysis. You want to buy a cheap saber and spend the time to learn the OS, or to send it to an installer that can reprogram it, and how much money is that going to cost you? And when you start adding up those costs, or you need to get a new blade built because something went wrong with the blade you bought, all those costs can really start adding up. Hey, Link the Jedi. But, you know, I kind of wanted to talk about that a little bit tonight. And I do have something to show you guys. So I got the 100 RPM motors in. And I want to fire one up here. I had something. Stand by. That's the 25 RPM motor. I want to fire up this 100 RPM motor so you guys can see it. It's freaking crazy. So I hope I can get this done and wired into a Proffie next week. These things are really small. I'll hold it up to the camera so you guys can see it. This is the 100 RPM motor. You can see it's a little guy. I don't know, it's shaking in front of the camera. But that's the 100 RPM motor. And we're going to do an experiment with this thing. And I'm going to put one of Space Windew's cards on it so we can run it. Oh yeah. Hang on, let me bring the power supply in. And I got my power supply wires here. I'm going to hook onto this puppy. This thing is crazy. You know, the first motors I bought were like 25 RPM or something like that. And then this one is 100 RPM, and it's nuts. This is more what I was kind of hoping for, what this one does. And I already hooked it up, so I already know it works. We're going to spin one of Space Windew's cards with it. If I can get it connected. These little wires are tough. The wires are coming disconnected here. Oh, that's great. We'll get Space Windew's card on there if I can get this figured out here. My negative is the problem. These stupid alligator clips are just humongous for these little wires. Look at that thing go. We'll catch you later, Michael Dallin. But look at that thing go. That's at 3.7 volts. That's 100 RPM. That thing is crazy. And then I'll stop it. So this little motor is pretty powerful. So what my intention is to do for next week, and there's the little motor. So what my intention is to do the next week is, we'll see you, Michael Dallin, is to wire this up to a Proffie, and we can adjust the blade style. Yeah, I don't think they're going to be tough enough either. Well, so Mountain Sabers, that's funny. But you bring that up, which is why, we wanted to do this experiment. So what my idea is to hook the motor. Yeah, that's for a crystal chamber to make it spin. But it would work for a vibration motor too, but I don't like vibration motors. I just like bass speakers. They're loud enough. But yeah, what the thought is to hook the crystal chamber motor onto a FET, and then tell the FET, hey, it's a red blade. And, we can then adjust the voltage and amperage going to the motor with RGB value. So, full red is like RGB 25500, that's going to be the setting, and that gives you full red. And that's going to give you full 3.7 volts at the FET, or 4.2 volts, or whatever your battery's at. But if we wanted to reduce the voltage to slow the motor down, we could go RGB 12500, and that way, like I said, the FET is going to think that this is a LED, and it's going to throw the voltage at it depending on your blade style. That's right. So you're using a Proffie as your pot. You don't need a pot. But then what you do is you build a blade style, and this is my hope. What you do is you build a blade style that views the crystal chamber motor as if it's a red LED, and then you create a blade style that gives it different voltages. So what I'm figuring is, like, when you turn the saber on, it gives it, full voltage on red. And then when you go into lockup, it goes between full red and full off, full red and full off. And then there'll be some variance in the speed of the chamber. We'll have to work on the periods that it turns off, but you're going to get it. We'll see you, Fernando. But that's my idea. And then when you turn the saber off, when you retract it, you're going to have off behavior. And, you can say, okay, well, when it's on, it's at 25500. But when it's off behavior, it's going to be at, like, 2500 RGB. And that's my hopes. And that's what I'm going to try and program the Proffie to make that thing do. And if that's the case, then we can actually create different behaviors in the crystal chamber spinning rotation on the Proffie, using a blade style to alter the voltage to the motor. And I've already tested the motor on the DC power supply, and as you adjust the voltage, it does increase in speed when you increase the voltage, and as you decrease the voltage, it decreases in speed concurrently. Now, the first motors I ordered, they were like 25 RPM max, and they were like horrible. And then somebody on this stream said, oh, you can get 100 RPM motors. I'm like, 100 RPM motors? That's kind of like more what I wanted to do. So I got these 100 RPM motors in just today. That's why I haven't had time to wire them up. So it's going to be interesting if I can wire those 100 RPM motors up to a Proffie next week and test out my theory here. And maybe I'll use Space Windu's card, as a propeller. I don't know. We'll do something crazy with them. But, I think that'd be awesome. Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm talking about, Colin. We're going to use the Proffie to do that. So, when you turn the lightsaber on, the crystal chamber would be like spinning at light speed. But when you go into lockup, it would alternate between full voltage and off, and we'll have to adjust that period. So you get like some crazy activity in the crystal chamber spinning. And then when you retract the saber, it'll slow to a crawl where it's just barely spinning. And the thing, I'm going to have to play with the RGB values to find where that's at. But I think if I can come up with a base blade style that does all that, I can share that, on the Proffie board support group and open source support group, and of course on the stream when I do it. I mean, that's my intention with that experiment, is to make that happen. I mean, I'm not a big rotating crystal chambers kind of guy, but if you're going to rotate a crystal chamber, why not do it in style and, make it happen. And I'm not a Red Sox fan. This is Jen's Cup. I can't stand the Red Sox, but I'm drinking water. But that's the plan with that saber. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of how I'm going to do it. Mountain sabers, just like you would, configure an accent. And by the way, you know, there's so much going on in the Proffie group. It's almost hard to keep up with. You know, you got Mountain Sabers coming out with blade styles and crazy sound fonts, and you know, Brian Connor's doing a bunch of crazy stuff. I mean, there's so much going on in the open source group right now. It's hard for me to keep up. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of cool stuff getting ready to happen. I'm sorry about all my audio issues tonight. And yeah, Colin, you know, usually if you're going to have a spinning crystal chamber, that's going to be buried deep, deep, deep in the saber. And, you know, I have a lot of crystal chamber sabers. Like, you know, I mean, this is my DV6, and it's got a crystal chamber in it. You know, and it's got 2 crystals, but nothing spins in there. And then, you know, of course, I have my Mentor Graflex over here. And I have, you know, a bunch. Now, what I did do is in my, let me see if I can get this off. Yeah, I mean, the thing is if somebody's building one with motors, I mean, power to them. I'd like to kind of, you know, create a way to make it fun for them. I'll tell you, this is the only crystal chamber I ever built that's kind of spinning. I hope this works. But I use the NeoPixels to spin. So when you ignite, there's actually like a turbine, but they're made out of NeoPixels. And then when you turn off the saber, you know, the NeoPixels stop spinning. So to me, the only spinning that I really care for is, you know, in electronic spinning, like using NeoPixel strips like I did here on my Nihilus saber. But, you know, let me see if I can...
Neck roll.
That's about as spinny as I'm going to get. And you can see it spool down here. So to me, you know, I always thought that, you know, spinning was better reserved, you know, for NeoPixels, because, you know, if they go bad, I can just replace them. But, you know, put the kill key back in here. Put the kill key back in my Nihilus hilt. This thing is nuts. This was a MHS saber that I built, and I love this thing, but it's cantankerous. And this one has the latest OS on it. It's pretty awesome. It's got battle mode and all that stuff. So that's a pretty awesome hilt. But anyway, that's inside of it. So that's how I deal with that. And then, you know, you have, you know, the Graflexes with these crystal chambers in it. And what I think is like, you know, I mean, I hardly ever have my crystal chambers open, and, you know, I just open them up, show people, hey, check this out, look at the inside. You know, that's really realistic. But, you know, Colin says he has an idea by use JBL Bluetooth speakers or Beats pills, take the speakers out of it and use them for sabers, since those speakers are top quality. A lot of times, Colin, the big problem is the speaker size. You know, they make all kind of different size speakers for lightsabers. Let me get my speaker drawer out and I'll show you. So, you know, different hilts will take different size speakers, and, you know, there's definitely tons of speakers out there. So, like, I'll show you a couple of different speakers here, a couple examples of speakers. So this is a typical 28 millimeter bass speaker here, and then I'll show that in comparison. This is like I think this is a 24 millimeter bass speaker. You can see the difference in size. And then this is a flat premium speaker. If I can get it open. So I got a 28 millimeter bass speaker. This is a premium speaker from the Custom Saber shop. And then this is like a 24 millimeter bass speaker. So the speaker is always dependent upon, you know, what hilt that you're wanting to use it in and what size hole you have to go in. So, you know, Colin, if you could take some of those Beats pills and use the speakers in them for Sabers, that would probably be okay. But to me, I think the biggest thing for sound quality isn't so much the speaker as it is the resonance chamber within the hilt. So, for instance, on this Graflex Mentor, which, you know, that's kind of like my big baby. This Graflex Mentor actually has not a very high quality speaker in it. This Graflex Mentor, which, you know, and now I got the volume reduced. But what I wanted to show y'all was, and I don't even know if y'all will be able to see it, but this lightsaber has, you know, very, well, I don't, see, that's loud. You can't really see the speaker, but it's just because I got a copper mesh back there, but I think you can see it like in the light there. But this is just a simple custom Saber Shop premium flat speaker in this saber, because that's all this chassis in how I ordered it would fit. So, you know, that's the main issue on a lot of these is, oops, that is swing activation, is, where'd my glass eye go? The resonance chamber in the hilt is really, that really makes your sound, you know, more so than the speaker. And when I talk about a resonance chamber, I'm talking about dead space. So right now, there's no resonance, but as I put the hilt on, listen. Now it's a Graflex, so Graflexes are all quiet, but you definitely get a lot better resonance. Now Graflex is not a good example, but what is like this KR Sabers flagship. So the resonance chamber is basically the pommel on this one, but if you take the pommel off, it's not as loud. But when you add the pommel on, yeah, I'm sorry about the echoes. But, you know, the resonance chamber is important. I know, Chet, I love that saber too. I'm so glad I built it. So Wooly has an Ethan Zimmer Masterclass install. Sounds pretty low because of all the stuff blocking the bass speaker. Resonance definitely does matter in sound producing. Yeah, Wooly, I mean, if it's a Graflex, it's really hard to make the Graflexes loud. And Steve Harris says the more doodads like crystal, like motors that move crystals, the more drain on your pixel power. Does a crystal really need to move around? You know, Steve, I'm right there with you. To me, that the Mentor chassis and that Graflex has no moving parts. You know, but if we're going to put one in, I think we control it with Proffie, and that's kind of what I wanted to do, is just figure that out. But me personally, in my sabers, I don't want moving crystal chambers because that's more stuff that could go wrong. It is more stuff that's taking amperage away from your battery and neopixels. But we'll see you, Colin J. But you know, the impact is kind of minimal on those crystal chamber motors. I think the biggest concern I have with them is if they break down, you have to tear the whole saber apart to get to them to replace them, or to replace gears that strip, you know, the plastic gears and all that come on them. It's MHS hilt, but Graflex master chassis installed. Yeah. Well, you know, GCS sabers, you know, Mad Cow always makes sure that he puts a really good, you know, really good resonance chamber in his hilt. So, you know, definitely the GCS sabers are going to be a lot louder. But, you know, MHS, I mean, this is MHS and it's loud. It's definitely loud. Oh! Anthony Merritt checks on armed robbery. That's MHS and it's loud. But there's a really good resonance chamber in the back of this hilt, and it's also improved by the swallowtails. So I have resonance before and after the speaker, including at those swallowtails. And you can see the speaker grill in there. Anthony Merritt's great to see you. Hope you're doing well. Yeah, I'm really hoping that we don't have to go into work. But, yeah. So I don't know what my next couple of weeks is going to look like. I don't know if we'll be live next week or not. Work might be getting in the way. It depends on what's happening here on the national level. And, you know, kind of concerned about where we're going to be at here in a week. But hopefully it doesn't affect us greatly. I know that Anthony Merritt's hoping it doesn't too. But, you know, we'll make the best of it here. Yeah, if your speaker's in the middle of the hilt, Wooly, you really need some sort of sound outlets in the middle of the hilt, around the speaker. You know, Graflexes are tough like that because on a Graflex, the bottom is the bottom is closed. So, you know, there's a cap on the back, and the speaker is right here. So there's practically no resonance chamber there. There's no way for the sound to get out. There's some stuff that I did underneath the D-ring to allow for some more sound out. But on this hilt, most of the sound actually escapes through the clamp. But, yeah, I mean, I guess the bottom line on the video tonight, once we got through the audio difficulties, was, you know, if y'all are going to buy Pastor LGT Sabers, then, you know, be prepared to do some homework, because I guarantee the saber is not going to be what you want when you get it, and you might end up having to do some soldering and solder repair. And, you know, most of us are using protected circuit batteries, but I think they use an onboard protected circuit. Some of them do in their chassis. And there was a guy on open source that was messing around with that, and I was like, just bypass that. Use a protected battery and bypass all that crap. And, you know, I think he did. I haven't heard if he had success or what. Success. But hoping he did. But at any rate, kind of hit all the main topics tonight. What are y'all working on? Anybody working on anything good or interesting? Complex builds? Something you're trying to do on Proffie that maybe hasn't been done before? Working on unique blade styles? I appreciate it, Steve. I try my best to make good videos. Of course, tonight didn't start so good with the sound problems, but what are you going to do? Yeah, Mountain Sabers is working on more sound fonts. I think he found his forte, and, you know, he's churning out sound fonts now. So Mountain Sabers is Kyberphonics and K-Sith in the making. Did y'all see they did a live stream the other night for 7 hours? 7 hours long. I got to go watch it. Yeah, I guess that it was getting frustrating for me too, Steve. You know, you got all these guys getting LGT Sabers and then, you know, not reading the manual, not learning anything about Proffie, and just jumping on there and saying, well, this isn't working and that isn't working. And you're like, well, did you read anything about it at all before you tore into it and changed all the font on your SD card? Did you make copies of the fonts on your SD card before you changed it? You know, a lot of things like that. Chet Osborne's working on a 1 replica Super Stunt Ben Kenobi. Super Stunt Ben Kenobi. Is that like from Revenge of the Sith, or is it from one of the earlier movies? Steve's doing a CFX Luke Hero V1, not Proffie. It's his first CFX. There's nothing wrong with CFX, Steve. I've installed a few CFXs, and I like them. You know, they're simple. They're definitely simpler for the end user, a lot like Verso. No Arduino involved, which is always a good thing. There's nothing wrong with CFX. I just love all the stuff Proffie can do. But you gotta. Max, you really need to go on Fernando's website and, you know, flip through all his blade styles. It'll take you some time, but hopefully you can find some blade style that Fernando's already posted that may work. I mean, there are not too many blade styles that wouldn't work. ROTS, that's cool. So I just did a ROTS, it's OWK3 by 89 Sabers and Corbanth that I did for Chad Pulliam. And that saber came out really well. Thin necks are tough. Steve has 3 Proffies now and thinks Proffie's better. For whatever reason, Steve, I mean, the sound of the smooth swings and the accent swings, to me, are just more organic on Proffie. And I've gotten to the point where I love the, you know, oh, I got to turn it on.
Kylo Ren.
Those gesture additions. Every time I pick up a saber that's not Proffie, I'm always trying to turn it on with gestures and turn it off with gestures. I probably look like a moron. I was doing that with that Verso saber the other day. I'm like, what the hell is going on? It's not working. And I'm like, oh yeah, it's Verso. Oh Lord. Mountain Saber's doing an F11D blaster with CFX for someone. And he's got his Proffie one. Yeah, I'm getting ready to do another Proffie Boba Fett EE3. I'm actually going to replace the blaster core that I put in the first EE3 that I installed, and I'm going to put a Proffie in there. And I don't know if that guy's going to sell it or what. Shock Saber, Max. Yeah, that's a cool blade. Yeah, Steve, you know, that's kind of me too. I mean, I understand Plector Labs boards because I've installed Nano Biscottis, Prisms. I understand Plector boards, but, you know, sometimes there's some crazy settings you got to get to get it to work. And, you know, because I don't do them all the time, I don't go and ask a bunch of questions. I mean, I'll read the manual, and normally I've been able to figure it out myself. The one thing that I couldn't find in the manual, because it's such a weird thing, is the temperature warning alert on the CFX. You know, I was getting temperature warnings on the CFX board, and I was like feeling it, and it wasn't even hot. And I was like, what the hell? And then I did go and ask about that on the forums and change the temperature. Have I ever tapped a retention screw through where hilt pieces thread together? Every once in a while, it'd be a great place, but I figure I'd have to clean up the hilt threads really well. I haven't done that, Ken. I have been afraid to do that. Well, I mean, I have. Like on this hilt, I definitely did right here through the threads, but I never intended on taking that apart. That retention screw, actually, the way MHS is, kind of does, it holds the double male in there, and so I didn't really care if that part ever came out. So I have done it. I would prefer not to, especially if it's like on pieces of a saber that you have to separate. I would think the big problem is once you drill it and tap it, number one, you have to make sure it's clock tight before you do that. And number two, it may not come apart. And then number three, you could get metal shavings in the threads, causing them to lock together as you're taking them apart. But, you know, if your drill bit's nice and sharp and clean, and, you know, you make a clean hole and you thread it, you know, you might get lucky and it'll come apart, and then you're golden. So I think it's certainly possible, but I prefer not to put set screws through two threaded pieces. Now in Graflexes, like these 2.5s, oops, there goes my card. On these Graflexes, You know, there's set screws that go down, and I can't show y'all, but there's actually a set screw that goes down into the hilt through the threads that captures the chassis on this saber. And I think, you know, going through one piece that's threaded is okay, because you can clean it up before you thread it, the new one, back on. You know, you can take a knife and make sure there's no burrs in there, and then you can take a toothbrush and clean up the threads really good, and then you can thread your new piece back on and everything's good. But to go through two threaded pieces, you know, while they're threaded together, which is basically what you'd have to do, you know, to get the holes to line up perfectly, unless you're some kind of super genius smarter than I am. But if you're having to go down through two pieces, that's a big gamble, especially if it's an expensive hilt. But hey, you know, if you want to try it and you got some MHS parts and you're okay with ruining a set just to try it, give it a whirl and see if you can get them apart. But, you know, that's pretty awesome. Yep, Mountain Sabers has a good Terminator font. I haven't even been able to keep up with all that. So, but I know Mountain Sabers and Brian Connor are both coming out with crazy sound fonts and blade styles. It's a lot of fun watching them. And, you know, I hope my day job slows down, which I doubt. But if my day job slows down, you know, I can catch up. I really haven't been on Facebook that much. I haven't been on TRA that much. I haven't been doing much of anything except for work. And, you know, dealing with stuff with my dad and Jen's mom too. So we've been pretty busy. But yeah, work's been off the hook, and we'll see what happens here this week. Yeah, I mean, Ken, if you got some stuff that you don't care, you know, if it gets ruined, then give it a shot. I think as long as you can get them back apart after you drill and tap, then I think you're golden. I think the most important thing is just to make sure you've got them fully. Oh no, I saw that Chaos Mountain Sabers. I think, Ken, the thing is, if you can get them apart, then you're golden. Because then you can clean up the threads inside and out on both pieces, the male and female threads, and then you should be good. But that's the question, is will they come apart after you drill them and tap them? They might. They might. Give it a whirl. But yeah, Brian Connor's Chaos is cool. I saw that. He's like, by the way, if you have data line issues, this is what your blade looks like, which is true. That was so funny. Yeah, I mean, I don't like drilling into threads. Especially, you know, with Mountain Sabers, what he's talking about is you have a male piece and a female piece, and you're going to be tapping through both of them. Ugh. That's going to be hard to get apart. You're going to have metal flakes in the threads. And if you can get it apart, I think you're golden. I don't think it matters whether it's 832 or 1032 or, you know, whatever size. I think it doesn't matter what size you tap, you're going to have a hard time getting those two pieces separated. But, you know, if you can get them separated and then clean up the threads, you're golden. You know, try it. Give it a whirl. But, yeah. Yeah, I mean, like I said, Mountain Sabers, I'm cool with going through like one piece of thread, you know, so I can retain a chassis or something. But I can clean up the burrs around that hole after I drill it and tap it. You know, I can clean that out, you know, with a knife, and then toothbrush it clean to make sure that the threads aren't boogered or warped. And I can also make sure all the metal flakes are out of the threads. But if you drill it when they're screwed together, when you have the male and female threads on two pieces locked, you run the gamble of putting a piece of metal shaving or a burr into the threads, which could potentially lock the two pieces. I wouldn't do that. But, you know, if Ken's got two scraps laying around, give it a whirl. You know, no harm, no foul. You know, if it's MHS parts that you can replace just by ordering new parts from the custom saber shop, and it wasn't, you know, that expensive. Oh, yeah. Hey, Jeff, nerd up. Jeff's on the phone. You're not listening. Let's go ahead and comment on there. Hey, Birchie. Hashtag nerd up. Birch is awesome. What a cool guy. But, yeah, I mean, I think we've about covered what I wanted to cover tonight. I was glad to see y'all's talking about your builds, and I'm pretty excited to get this crystal chamber motor thing running. And if I do, I'll share the blade style on the open source group, Proffie board support page, and as well as on the video when I shoot it next week, and people will be able to tweak it and make it their own. Hey, Jeff. Jeff's a mess, man. But it's cool to see Jeff Birch on. I miss Jeff a lot. I miss Jeff a whole lot. But at any rate, I was glad to see the rest of you. Max, Ken, Jed Osborne, Mountain Sabers, everybody that's been interacting here. We've had a lot of fun tonight. Steve, Harris, Colin, all the folks that logged on tonight. Fernando, Colin, Link the Jedi, Jed Osborne. We had a pretty big group tonight, despite my technical difficulties. And, I'm glad to see... I'm reading Jeff's stuff. But I'm glad to see everyone, and everyone's working on these sabers. So we'll try to be patient with the Pach Store and LGT buyers. And, God love them all. They're awfully impatient sometimes. But glad to see y'all being as patient as you can be with them. Every now and then, hey, Bobby Susanbach's on. Bobby Susanbach's on. But every now and then, I'll chime in there and be like, you can't do that, or try this, or here's the manual. But, I don't know. A lot of LGT buyers out there, and kind of wanted to do that thing tonight. But hopefully next week, barring, any mass catastrophe in the United States, if I do a live, hopefully I'll have the Proffie wired up with the config file for the crystal chamber motor. And I know we got to help them out. But I also want to try doing an RGB LED tricree on that same saber, so people can see what those RGB effects on an in-hilt LED driven by Proffie look like. So I'm going to try and knock out both those on the same Proffie. Yeah, day job's getting nutty. We're really worried about this week, but, it is what it is. I'll be ready to retire. I would love to just do sabers full time, but I can't. I'm in the trap. I'm in the trap at work. I can't leave right now. I got about 4 more years on my sentence. And then once I'm finished with that, I can go to sabering full time, at least until I go to work for SpaceX. And then hopefully we'll have some fun. But at any rate, I got to get going. I've had enough for tonight. But thank you all for watching. Thank you for tuning in. Oh, 2020's on a blade or no go. Thanks for trying that, Mountain Sabers. Yeah, I eventually wanted to try that and I didn't. There's some 2020s. I still love the 2020 strips, but building a blade with them is no go. But check out Space Window's video on those Adafruit pixels that he bought, the new ones. Yeah, they are a pain to work with. Joining them, I imagine, would be a problem because there's larger gaps in them. But there are new LEDs, new NeoPixels out there that have diffusion already built into them, and I think they're like 300 per meter. Come to the Panhandle of Florida. I'm still kind of aiming toward Cape Canaveral is where I want to be, Bobby. But I'll still be kind of close to you if I go to Cape Canaveral. But thank you all for tuning in. Thank you for chatting and being patient with all the new folks out there new to Proffie. I'm sorry about my audio difficulties tonight, but I appreciate y'all's patience while I'm working through it. But yeah, Space Window, those NeoPixels are awesome. And he got them from Adafruit. I got them saved. I just hadn't ordered any yet, but I'm going to. They're awesome. 300 pixels per meter. It's crazy. But anyway, we'll eventually get those and show them. But until next time, hopefully next Monday, we'll see you guys. Nerd up. Hashtag nerd up. Thanks, Jeff Birch, for stopping by. Thanks, everybody, for stopping in. Steve, Max, Mountain Sabers, Jeff Birch, Bobby, everybody. Have a great week, and hopefully we'll see y'all next week. Same bat time, Same bat channel, maybe with less audio problems. See y'all later.
Thank you, everybody, for watching, as usual. I really appreciate y'all tuning in on my channel. And as always,